What's going on, y'all? Welcome back. It's Ars. Let's get productive. So today I want to talk about a brand new plugin. Now this plugin comes from a company called Sauceware Audio and Lemonaide. So this is a really dope collaboration. Anybody that's been following Sauceware Audio or following Lemonaide, they know that they create incredible plugins. And the name of this new plugin is called Spawn. Now, just a little bit about Sauceware Audio. Sauceware Audio has been around for a while now, creating incredible instrument plugins. They started off with Octave Deluxe, which I always thought was an incredible blend of nuance-infused sounds mixed with a really dope user experience. And then they moved on to the Scorch plugin. They have a lot of really cool effects. Again, emphasis on the sound design, really dope nuance-infused sounds. And then they moved on to Trifecta, which is another dope instrument plugin. And now we have Spawn. I think the theme, though, when it comes to Sauceware Audio is dope, nuanced infused sounds with a really great user experience. And Lemonaide does the same thing when it comes to the user experience, but with their software and with their emphasis on ethical AI technology, the AI models really being trained by producers who really have an ear for music. And the fact that they're reaching out to these producers, they're bringing them in to this AI system and allowing them to get the credit that they deserve for helping to train these AI models. And we'll get a little bit more into their version of ethical AI and what that means. But like I said, Lemonaide and Sauceware Audio have come together to create Spawn, which is really a blend between what they both do best. Really incredible sound design, really incredible user experience mixed with a really incredible MIDI generator backed and powered by really incredible ethical AI software. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into it. Sauceware Audio, Lemonaide, Spawn. Let's see what this thing is all about. Okay, so as always, I have Logic queued up and this is Spawn. Now, like I said, this is an incredible instrument plugin. By itself, it's full of really dope, really creative, nuanced, infused sounds. And anybody that's been following Sauceware Audio, I really feel like they took the best of everything they've been creating with all of their plugins as far as the sound design category is concerned and jam-packed it inside of this plugin. So pushing the AI aside, pushing the MIDI generator aside and the MIDI loops aside, this thing is just a really dope plugin. They teamed up with Lemonaide to make sure that they really created a next level MIDI loop generator using their ethical AI technology. Now, like I said, I wanted to talk a little bit about what ethical AI is exactly. I feel like in the producer community, we've all been affected by companies that don't really care about the process of creating music and the process of creating beats, the fun behind it, what makes it interesting to us as producers, or even including us in the process of training their AI models. They kind of just take what we do and use songs we've already created to train their AI models and leave us out of the process. We don't get anything for it. You know, we don't get any compensation for it. We don't get any recognition for it. It kind of takes you out of the creative process. I mean, it generates these MIDI loops for you, and then that's it. What Spawn does is it creates these MIDI generated loops and ideas for you, kind of in the way that Splice does it. Like you can select from different categories of types of genres and sounds that you're going for, and it'll create that type of style for you. And I'll show you what that looks like. And it's not just a MIDI generator. It's full of sounds, and these sounds are broken up across your keyboard into 3 different sections. On the higher notes in your keyboard, at the higher end, you have your melody section. In the middle part of your keyboard, you have the chord section. And at the lower part of the keyboard, you have your bass section. So when this thing generates MIDI notes, it's also incorporating all of those different categories, melody, chords, and bass. And it's using sounds that are inside of Spawn and generating melodies using some of the sounds inside of Spawn. It's generating chords using some of the sounds inside of Spawn, and it's generating bass using some of the bass sounds inside of Spawn, and it's all original. And it's trained by producers to kind of pick and choose sounds that go well together and make really dope loops. So it's kind of like using Splice, but imagine if you were able to dive into those samples and separate the instruments and move it around how you want. So if we take a second and just look at the interface, it's super clean and it's super fun to look at. You have this section right here in the middle, and this section right here is kind of like a blend. It allows you to blend between spacey sounding effects, and if you move it over, you get more of an aggressive sound. And then if you drag this thing down, you can change the pitch and make the pitch go down. And if you drag this thing up, you can change the pitch and make the pitch go up. And this thing can be automated, so you can really blend between a lot of different effects and different pitches, automating this wheel. Right over here in this section, you have your MIDI pattern section. Now, when you hit the spawn button and generate different loops, it generates about 8 or 9 different versions of that MIDI pattern for you. And you can switch between each of those MIDI patterns right in this section right here. I'll give you an example in a second of what that sounds like. Right over here, you have your bass section. Like I said, this thing is broken up into 3 different sections on your keyboard. So the lower octaves on your keyboard, you have a bass section, and the middle octaves on your keyboard, you have a chord section. And in the higher octaves, you have the melodics, the melody section. And this right here is where you would control that bass section. It's going to show your MIDI notes that you generate in that bass section. And just by pressing forward or backward, you can change between the bass sounds. Because like I said, this thing is loaded with dope sounds. So it's not just a MIDI generator, it's generating actual samples for you, actual loops for you with really incredible sounds. So if you don't like how a certain bass sounds, you can just press forward or backwards. It'll take you through those different bass sounds, those different bass instruments. Right here, it's the same thing, but it's for your chords. So when it generates the MIDI chords for you, you can change the sound that it's using with these forward and backward arrows. And right over here, you have your melody section, and it does the same exact thing. And you can go forward and backward and change the different sounds. This is your piano roll right here. And when it generates the different MIDI notes, you can move those notes around, and you can even add notes. So that's really cool. Right down here, you have your 3 main sections that you're going to be working on when it generates those loops for you. So over here in this section, you have the main page, the spawn main page, and that's pretty much what you're seeing right here. In the middle section right here, this is your MIDI editing page. And inside of this MIDI editing page, you can edit the effects. You could go right here and you have your envelope section, you have your glide knob, you have a half speed section, a gain section. So you can really create some incredible sounding samples. Now, this last tab right here is my favorite section, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a lot of you guys' favorite section as well. Having a MIDI generator inside of this thing is really incredible and really useful if you just want to generate and spark an idea really quick that you can manipulate and mold and make it your own. But a lot of times, and for me personally, a lot of times I don't even use the MIDI generator. I just love the freaking sounds inside of this thing. And this thing is loaded with sounds, like absolutely loaded with sounds. And you can scroll through all of these different sounds when you put it in instrument mode. And that means you're in instrument mode, you're just using it as an instrument, like just to use the sounds. There's so many different categories, from synths to strings to steel drums, soundscapes, plucks, keys, guitars, flutes, experimental. And you can go through those different sounds just by going through the different presets, or you can go over to this section over here on the left and highlight the different tabs that describe the type of sound you're looking for. And then when you go through your genre of instruments, you can click on one of the categories. Let's say you pick synth lead, and these sounds will be sounds that work inside of the descriptive categories that you selected. You can change the key and the scale for the selected MIDI clip. So when this thing generates different MIDI for you, you can change the key and the scale right here in this section. And down here, really, really dope section. This thing allows you to send each of these sounds, your melody sound, your chord sound, and your bass sounds, to multiple outputs on your DAW. So this is your multi-output section. You click on that, and then you can send each of those different sounds onto different tracks inside of your DAW. Up here at the very top, This is your actual MIDI generator, MIDI loop generator. I think I should start saying MIDI loop generator because it's not just generating MIDI for you, it's actually creating samples. The AI inside this thing is incredible. It's creating really dope samples. I'll just jump into this thing right now and give you an example of what I'm talking about as far as it generating MIDI samples, not just MIDI. So let's just check it out right here. Now, the first thing you can do is, as soon as you open this thing up, you could just click spawn and it'll just create a MIDI pattern for you. Now, like I said before, what's really dope about this thing is all of the sounds you're hearing inside of this loop that was just created are sounds that you can change via the instruments category. And you can dive into the bass notes, the chord notes, and the melody notes and change those up. So let's just say in this melody right here, let's say I didn't like the sound for the melody. I could just press this forward arrow and just change it. You can just go through the instruments that way, or you can actually go into the actual instruments category, click on a section, melody, chord, or bass, whichever one you're trying to change. If you want to change chords, and instead of that brassy sound, let's try organs. Let's see this. You can go to bass and change the bass sound. Now, let's say you do that and you still don't find that really interesting and you want to mess around with this effects wheel right here. You can play it and then just drag this effects wheel until you get something really creative sounding. And you can even change the pitch of it by dragging the wheel down. It's that simple. You can just in real time augment and change the sample that this thing comes up with. And it's really, really dope. You can also go to the MIDI patterns over here and scroll through different MIDI patterns that it created for you. So if you don't like that MIDI pattern, you can press forward and change it. Or you could just go up here at the top and click on this section right here and you can select the type of loop that you're trying to create. So you could go to, let's try guitar, let's try airy and energetic and create a whole new loop. And like I said before, you can mess around with the effects wheel. Really, really dope stuff. There's no end to the level of creativity that you have and the control you have as a producer over this thing, which is really important, especially when it comes to the AI category. Like, this thing in no way feels like my job is being taken over. I'm so in control of every aspect of this. And the MIDI notes themselves, I can just change it around however I want. I can erase a note, so I could double click and just erase a note. I can double click on another part of the piano roll. See, I want a note there. Double click. I can drag it around and move it around however I like. And put it right there. Put it up to that note. And put another one here. One thing I would say, it's probably something that can happen in an update. It would make things a little bit easier if when I drag the note, it actually plays so I can hear what note I'm on. So like right here, like that. That's simple. And like I said before, you can go into the MIDI editing page and you can mess around with the different effects. So let's just solo this instrument right here, the chords. We can add chorus effect. Then we can go over to the bass and I'm gonna add a bit more, I'm gonna add a bit more drive into the bass and the distortion effect. Maybe we can add flanger effect. Really dope. And you can even put this on half speed. And then you can drag and drop the MIDI. It's as simple as clicking on this little section right here. And you just drag it to the track. And that's your MIDI right there. Now, one thing I will say is when you play it back, make sure you go down here to the bottom and you click on this little synthesizer logo. This is gonna put your instrument into instrument mode. Now, instrument mode has two different usages. So you can use instrument mode if you're not trying to use the MIDI generator portion of this plugin and you just want to use the sounds that are inside of this plugin. You can put this plugin into instrument mode and then just go over to the presets category and just go through a bunch of different instruments. You can go to strings. You can go to piano. I really like the pianos inside of this thing. And that delay is on there really crazy because I just cranked up the delay for the sample I created. But the other usage for instrument mode is when you drag and drop your actual MIDI, put this plugin in instrument mode. That way it's not playing back the sample that's inside of the plugin and playing back the MIDI that you drag and drop onto the DAW. So you don't have two different competing samples playing at the same time. You put it into instrument mode and it will just recognize what's happening on your DAW here. I do want to explain how to set up your multi-outputs inside of Logic. Now you can do this in any DAW. I use Logic, so I'm going to show you how you do it in Logic. But if you click up on this tab, I think I'm going to put a tab up here at the top of the video. You click on this tab, and this is a video that shows you how to do it inside of FL Studio. And like I said, you can do this in any DAW. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. But inside of Logic, this is how you would set up the multi-output. So the first thing you want to do is create a new track and put spawn on the new track. And then you want to go right here to the multi section right here. And you want to make sure that it's on 3 parts. Now, for you guys, it might be on 4. You want to just make it 3 because you only need 3 tracks because there's only 3 sections. It's only separated into 3 instrument sections inside of the plugin. You have your melody section, your chord section, and your bass section. So there's going to be a MIDI created for bass, there's going to be a MIDI created for chords, and there's going to be a MIDI created for melody. So that's 3 different sections. So you want to make sure that's on 3. And then after that, you should be able to come to the bottom down here and just click on that plus logo right there, and it'll just add the 3 tracks for you. And after that, that's it. all of those sounds will be separated into different tracks inside of your DAW. And that's very useful for mixing and all of those different purposes. So that is going to come in handy for a lot of people when you need to separate the instruments inside of the plugin. And like I said, you can do this in FL Studio, you can do it in Ableton, you can do it in any DAW that you're using. This is just how you do it for Logic. So now let's dive into the presets inside of this thing. Really dope presets. First thing I would do, click down here, put the plugin into instrument mode. While you're in instrument mode, you can go over to the presets. So let's just start off. I like the pianos inside of this thing, so we'll start playing some of the pianos. I love how cool and live sounding the piano sound inside of this thing. Click another one. Go to strings, really dope strings inside of this thing. Really dope strings, randomly click here. We can go to flutes and hear what some of the flutes sound like. Really cool sounds. I really like the sounds inside of this thing. We can go to synth pads. You have guitars. Guitar through tape. Really dope sounds. I can't, obviously this thing is full of sounds. I can't go through every single sound, but just to show you, again, this section here, you can click on different types of sounds you're looking for. So something with a delay, and ambient. And let's try flutes. Let's go to keys. And again, if you don't want to be on instrument mode, you can just turn off instrument mode, get right back into playing around with the generator. Let's click on steel drums and huge and click spawn. Go through the different MIDI patterns. And here you can get a really good look at how complex some of these AI generated MIDI patterns are. But let's just say I want to hear the chord section. Let's say I don't like that sound. Again, I can either scroll through the sounds with these forward and backward arrows, or I can go to the presets menu. I'm gonna just use the forward and backward arrows. Really cool instrument, man. I'm really having fun using this thing. One of the great things about this plugin, and it's something that I don't see a lot of people talking about when it comes to the conversation of AI generated software, is it allows you to access a creative part of your process or your mind that you may not discover on your own. It's kind of like collaborating with another musician. So you could think of this plugin as being another musician and you're collaborating with it. And I think that's really important. Collaboration allows you to take everything that's dope about you and about your perspective, your ear sonically, and then team up with someone else who has a different perspective. And they can allow you to access chord progressions or ways of playing chord progressions that you may never access yourself because your ears don't work like that. And that's not how your mind perceives and creates music, if that makes sense. It's like a lot of times producers have a signature sound, and the reason they have a signature sound is because the way they hear music in their mind. When they put their hands on the keyboards, they're going to usually feel around the same types of chords and play the same types of progressions. When they're creating a melody, they usually have a specific style because that's what they like and that's what they hear. And one of the great things about using software like this is it generates new MIDI patterns and chord patterns and melodic patterns that were trained by other producers. So it's kind of like you're collaborating with those other producers, and it's giving you ideas that you may not have discovered yourself, but now that you're hearing it inside of this plugin, now that's a part of your arsenal. Now that's a part of your toolkit. It's like, I usually don't play melodies this type of way, but I like how that sounds. And now next time you create a beat, you have a whole new tool that you can use. And I think that's when plugins like this really shine. And that's why this plugin is really great, because they incorporated other producers into the ethical AI process and helping to train the AI model. There's all these different producers out there that help train this instrument, and you get a feel like you're collaborating with other producers. And that's what's really dope about this thing. But let's jump right into the cookup. I want to play a beat that I made using this plugin. Now, every single track inside of this beat, every single instrument was made using a preset inside of Spawn. It only generated one MIDI loop for me, and all of the other instruments that are inside of this beat was me using Spawn in instrument mode and building on top of that and playing it how I want to play it. You know, so there's a lot of room for creativity. But let's just jump right into this and play this beat back real quick. But yeah, that's it. That's the beat that I made using Spawn. Now, like I said before, this is a really dope instrument. It's something that can really aid anybody, any type of producer out there in the creative aspect. Really dope sounds inside of it. Really incredible software, thanks to Sauceware teaming up with Lemonaide to use their ethical AI and just their incredible MIDI generating technology. It's one of those plugins that's full of different possibilities. Like I said, I love the idea that they teamed up with other producers to help train the AI model. So you really get a collaborative feel. It doesn't feel like it's just generating random computerized melodies that don't feel like they work in the genres that you're probably producing for. You can get a sense that the people that train this AI care about music, and it's creating stuff that you would use yourself. And then you can take it and put your own twist on it. And it allows you to do that not only in the MIDI, not only in the fact that you can drag and drop the MIDI, that you can move the notes around, that you can add different MIDI notes, but the instrument that's built on top of the MIDI generator is a powerhouse by itself. So like I said, a lot of the time, I would go as far as to say most of the time I use this thing in instrument mode and I'm not even using the MIDI generator. I'm just using the sounds that are inside of this thing. But let me know what you guys think. Is this a plugin you could see yourself adding to your arsenal? Any plugins that you'd like to see me review on this channel, leave it down in the comment section below and I'll be sure to check them out. As always, if you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you can stay notified anytime I drop a new video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.